Welcome back to the Dime Comic Bros podcast. All three of us are here, but not in one location. I am one of your co-hosts, Spencer, joined by Jacob and Collin as kind of normal.
I am on another loot quest where instead of making loot, I'm spending more loot than I'm making, and it's very fun.
Oh boy.
Loot Quest. I like that. That's what you call them.
I am Jacob, by the way.
I am Collin, by the way.
Damn.
Why buy a comic that might cost more than a dime? Come meet the brothers who are here to waste your time.
Well, we have some news to get into. So, Jacob, why don't you kick us off, Mr. I write the news now, man.
From GamesRadar.com, Moon Knight is about to reach Night's End, seemingly implied as the final arc of writer Jed MacKay's time on the title, as just revealed by Marvel Comics, with a teaser image seen below in the article. The just announced story begins in July's Moon Knight number 25, which also introduces the Marvel Comics version of the MCU character Layla El Fawley, who will become Scarlet Scarab in the subsequent Moon Knight City of the Dead limited series by writer David Pepose and Marcelo Ferreira. We recently talked about the upcoming City of the Dead run. The cover alone sells it for me, and also probably for Spencer because he was way ahead of the curve on that one. He was all excited about how hot the Scarlet Scarab is. I cannot wait to read the entirety of this run of Moon Knight when they are finally released.
So something about this that I thought was kind of funny was I think 2 weeks ago, maybe 3 weeks ago, I was screeching about how I was annoyed this run was so popular because it wasn't going to end anytime soon and I wasn't going to be able to read it. And then like the next day, I saw this announcement that the run is seemingly ending. I should just keep my mouth shut all the time, it would seem.
You cursed it.
Spencer does curse things.
I do. From GamesRadar.com. Writer J. Michael Straczynski is returning to Marvel Comics to take on Captain America in an upcoming relaunched ongoing series alongside artist Jesus Saez this fall. In an interview with IO9, who broke the news, Straczynski laid out his plans to delve into Steve Rogers' life before he became Captain America, in which he'll confront the growing American Bund, a real-world organization of American Nazi sympathizers that formed before World War II. We are going to put young Steve right into the middle of that real-life vortex, where despite terrible odds, he'll make a crucial difference at an even more crucial moment, Straczynski explains. For a young Peter Parker, the murder of his Uncle Ben was a transformational event, putting him on the path to becoming Spider-Man. This story will be equally transformational, putting a young Steve Rogers on the path to become the hero he eventually becomes. Captain America #1 goes on sale September 20. I'm super excited for this, not just because it's a relaunch, but mostly because the story sounds really cool. I'm assuming it's going to probably take place in 2 time periods, just because just a story in the past would be kind of weird. But like skinny boy Steve punching Nazis sounds great to me.
Skinny Boy Steve. From
I don't know. I was kind of meh on this announcement, but we'll see.
From comicbook.com, Marvel confirmed new Superior Spider-Man series. In a quick tweet on Saturday, the publisher confirmed that the fan favorite Superior Spider-Man would be returning, marking the 3rd volume to star the character. Marvel also confirmed that Eisner Award winner Dan Slott will return to write the new series, which arrives this fall. Though they added more info swinging in soon, it seems likely we may not know more about the new Superior Spider-Man series until San Diego Comic-Con. This is great. I love the Superior Spider-Man. I have not finished it because I want to get it all physical instead of reading it online. I'm excited. I love Superior Spider-Man.
I agree. I'm looking forward to this. I do have some hesitations just because the arc ended really well with character progression for Otto, and I don't want them to just go back to that. I hope that this is like in between stories. They've been doing that with some Spider-Man miniseries and some Ben Reilly stuff for like just putting stories in the 90s lately. So I'm hoping that this is kind of like that, because I think going back to that norm would be a bad idea. But the character stuff is great.
I mean, that's what I was assuming what it would be, like some stories that just like can fit in between. Because even though don't know how it ends, because I don't believe I finished it, um, I still knew that it had like some type of story arc that ended well or blah blah blah, just by assuming. Because
Yeah,
they're treating Doc Ock as Spider-Man and him actually learning throughout the entire series.
crazy idea. Character development and Spider-Man stories, those don't usually mix, especially lately. And
Yeah,
that's
that doesn't
why
happen nowadays.
that's why I'm hesitant, is because this is probably more of an editorial decision than like a writing decision. They've
Yeah.
had all sorts of bullshit going on.
Well, I hope it's good.
From Marvel.com, it's the bloodthirsty saga fans have been waiting for. This September, the Predator will be unleashed on the Marvel Universe for the very first time as he viciously hunts Wolverine across decades of Marvel comic history in Predator vs. Wolverine. The 4-issue limited series will be written by Benjamin Percy, the acclaimed writer known for taking Wolverine's ferocious spirit to its limits in the character's current ongoing solo series. Percy will be joined by a host of all-star artistic talent, including Greg Land, Andrea Di Vito, Ken Lashley, Kizama, and many more. The series will reveal a bitter rivalry between Wolverine and Eyaja, who's been stalking him since his earliest days. Witness these never-before-told encounters as Percy brings the bloodiest hunters in all pop culture to their knees. I'm a little skeptical about mega companies crossing their characters over. It's an interesting idea. The cover looks great. I'm going to wait and see how it plays out.
So I would normally echo all of those sentiments, but Benjamin Percy is one of my favorite comic writers working right now. So I have a level of trust. And also, the Predator crossover books are always fucking awesome. Like, yeah, none of them are going to mean anything. Obviously, it's a throwaway. It's supposed to be. But like, anytime Predator typically clashes with like Wolverine or Batman or whatever, it's stupid fun. Like, just let it be gory. Fuck it.
Cringe.
Shut up, bitch.
Cringe.
From comicbook.com, Marvel announces a new Dark X-Men team. Dark X-Men #1 will be written by Steve Fox from X-Men Annual and drawn by Jonas Scharf from Avengers of the Wastelands. And they put together quite the team. The Dark X-Men will not lack for power, but they're easily one of the most unpredictable X teams in recent years. The Dark X-Men squad will include Madeline Pryor, Havoc, Archangel, Gambit, Azazel, Zero, Albert, and M-Plate. I'm excited for readers to find out how this unlikely cast got summoned under one roof. The ones at Maddie's side by choice, the ones stuck in limbo by circumstances out of their control, and the ones who don't make it out of the first issue alive. And to watch Jonas Scharf unleash a whole brand of gothic horror action on the Marvel Universe, he added. This is X-Men by the way of Evil Dead, and we're not leaving until we burn the whole place to the ground. Dark X-Men #1 will hit comic stores on August 16th.
Again, it looks cool. It's kind of a cool idea, but I'm going to wait to see how it plays out.
I think Jacob's getting kind of caught up to where we are in current X-Men times, or at least you're closer than I am right now.
I'm trying, but I haven't really gotten very far.
This also seems like it might be a decent jumping on point because it seems to be intended as like a Evil Dead, so like a horror roller coaster. So this might not be a bad place to pick up if the first issue is received well.
Art looks horny, that's all.
That is so true.
From Marvel.com, Marvel Studios announces new premiere dates for Loki and Echo. The second season of Marvel Studios' Loki will arrive on Disney Plus on October 6, 2023. Marvel Studios' Echo will arrive on November 29th, 2023 on Disney Plus, with all episodes dropping onto the streaming platform that day. Cool beans. Give me Daredevil.
I think it's a big oof that they are releasing all of the episodes for Echo, but not Loki. That shows that they don't have much trust in it.
I think they should not be dropping all of Echo at once. They should be doing it week by week because I think that's how shows should be watched.
Yeah, I think we've moved away from the binge model a good bit lately. I mean, even Netflix is breaking up its shows into at least chunks for their big shows right now, which has typically been received pretty well. Um, Echo, I think, it's a 6 or an 8 episode show, but it's getting released like on Thanksgiving. So on the one hand, it does make me feel like they don't have any faith in it, but also having a bunch of content to get people roped in on like Thanksgiving weekend isn't a bad idea either. And it's like right after Loki finishes. So it means something. I just don't know what it means.
From Collider.com, Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman fight to get home in Justice League War World trailer. The trailer shows the three heroes on three different worlds, all set in different time periods. Wonder Woman, played by Stana Katic, is shown in a world set in the Old West. She meets Jonah Hex, played by Troy Baker. Superman, played by Darren Criss, is shown as Clark Kent in a film noir-style world. He's working with police to stop a group of attacking aliens. Batman is played by Jensen Ackles, is shown in a world set in an ancient time filled with monsters. Just gonna skip over the rest of that. Justice League War World is scheduled to be released digitally and on Blu-ray this summer.
I'm super stoked for this. I've been really enjoying most of this timeline of interconnected movies. I really like the art style. But apparently the last two didn't have the best reception. That's just the Green Lantern one, and then I believe it's League of Superheroes or some shit. It's the Supergirl one that just came out like last month. Apparently neither one of those have been received super well for like cramming too much in at once. So it makes sense that they're pulling it back, even though it's a Justice League story. It's basically just about the Trinity, so that seems cool. Also, they're using War World, which is a fairly new comic run, so that's cool. The time periods look cool. It gets me very horny.
The animation looks really cheap, though, like cheaper than usual.
I don't know about that.
It looks cool. Animation, I don't agree with you, Jacob. I think it looks like animation, and it looks like it's a cartoon.
Yes, the
Damn,
floor
those
is
are
made out of floor.
the floor. Yeah. I think some of that might be because of the way the trailers cut together. It's not showing a lot of stuff in motion. Because these movies have had I think a higher production value than a lot of the previous stuff, like that old New 52 adjacent run of movies that were a complete mixed bag. Like some of these certainly do look worse than other ones, but I think the trailer might not even be completed footage yet either. Not to just play defense, but we'll see.
I doubt, because that looks too good to be not completed footage. I just think maybe it's just to do with personal taste. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. It's just personal taste.
Something else that does look really good, though, is from Collider.com. We got a full trailer for My Adventures with Superman. The official synopsis reads, in this serialized coming-of-age story, we follow Clark as he builds his secret Superman identity and embraces his role as the hero of Metropolis and perhaps the world. Lois, now growing into a star investigative journalist, takes inspiring photographer Jimmy Olsen under her wing. All the while, Clark and Lois are falling in love, sharing adventures, taking down bad guys, stumbling over secrets, and discovering what it means to be Superman and Lois Lane. My Adventures with Superman will debut on July 6, 2023 on Adult Swim and stream on Max the following day. Their series will have a 2-episode premiere, giving fans a great start to the new series. This looks fucking awesome.
Looks good. And
It looks like it's made the same way and probably like in the same world as the Poison Ivy and Harley Quinn TV show.
No, but I get what you're pointing at. It has a similar-ish vibe. This is definitely aiming for more of the YA demographic, which is fine. I'm sure there'll be some cringe teenage jokes in this I'll hate, but like I'm impressed by the quality of animation. I was expecting this to kind of look like shit, and it looks more anime than I was expecting and better than I was expecting.
It gives me Invincible vibes more than anything, but it's got way more color, I think. It's got way more color.
Yeah, it's in that neck of the
So
woods.
that's the anime. It's like, yeah, Invincible mixed with anime to me.
Collin, you have the last one, and it's sort of big.
Sorry.
This I know. This I know. I had to switch over from YouTube to the docs because I wanted to look at the animation while talking about it.
He wanted to look at Lois Lane's feet.
I wanted to look at Superman's junk. Thank you very much. From comicbook.com, the Birds of Prey are about to take flight once again. On Friday, DC unveiled the first full details surrounding the upcoming Birds of Prey ongoing series, which will launch out of the Dawn of DC initiative in September. The new Birds of Prey book will be penned by Kelly Thompson with art from Leonardo Ramiro and colors from Jordi Belair. The book's existence and its potential roster have captivated the internet across the week, with Thompson announcing a new member of the team each day. Led by Dinah Lance, Black Canary, the team also includes Cassandra Cain, Batgirl, Big Barda, Lady Zana, who is Zealot, and as Thompson announced on Friday, Harley Quinn. In Birds of Prey, Dinah Lance is one of the DC Universe's most elite fighters, and combined with her sonic scream, she's a fearsome foe in any scenario. But sometimes, even the Black Canary needs help. Faced with a personal mission brought to her by a mysterious new ally, and up against near impossible odds, she reforms the Birds of Prey with an unrivaled group, Cassandra Cain, Big Barda, Zealot, and Harley Quinn, with only one goal: extraction of their asset at any cost. What could possibly go wrong? This all new, all deadly Birds of Prey is still breaking hearts and faces after all these years. I don't care, but then I heard Big Barda. I read Big Barda, so I must read.
I'm looking forward to this a lot. Gail Simone was kind of hyping this book up, and as like the unofficial godmother of the Birds of Prey characters, she's looking forward to it and seems pretty genuine about it. So I'm looking forward to it. Big Barda being on the team is super out of left field, so that's cool. They're committing to Harley Quinn being a good guy now, which has been like an ongoing thing for like 10 years now, but it's nice that they're continuing to integrate her. And Black Canary is my mom.
Art is hot.
That is the most predictable answer we could have gotten out of Collin.
That's true.
Collin is actually a robot, and everything he says is written by AI.
Yes.
That's believable, honestly. It looks cool. The premise seems about what you'd expect for like a book relaunch.
That is the end of the news.
Beans, magical fruit. The more you eat, the more you toot.
So
And
moving on, we
to the-
have the last episode of Star Wars Visions Season 2.
It is Ao's Song, which was animated by Triggerfish. I was very hesitant to even watch this last episode. I was really hoping it was going to end on a better note than last volume did. I'm pretty sure I expressed this on the podcast last week that the last two episodes were pretty bleh. So I was really hoping
you said
it would
it
come
several
in.
times.
Yeah, and then this ended up being my favorite episode of this whole batch by a long stretch. I was completely floored by this.
Oh.
So it's about a young girl and her dad who live on a planet of the name of which I don't remember. It's a mining planet, and they extract kyber from the Earth's core or the planet's core and whatever. And then they have a Jedi friend who comes, takes it, purifies it for, Jedi purposes. And I was like a 7-8-year-old girl. So she does dumb 7-8-year-old girl shit, gets in trouble, and then saves everybody. The animation on this was so gorgeous. Collin's mocking me silently. Obviously I really like stop motion, but like felt and like cloth stop motion is like a double weakness of mine. This stuff is so high effort. I could not imagine working on it.
The art or the style of animation is fantastic, and it stresses me out thinking about how much work gets put into that. I actually like my body hurts when I think about that, because I remember trying to do Lego stop motion animation growing up, and then I saw like Coraline and like those animations, like stop motion animation, that's like so there's so much to it, and it's so tangible that it stresses me the fuck out.
For sure.
But it's I do like this one. I'll tell you now, I like this one a lot better than basically the entirety of the first season of Visions.
Yeah.
Except for, of course, the Ronin.
Well, yeah.
Ronin's S tier, always.
Yes.
While I felt that they didn't explain the child's power and why she has to be quiet in the beginning. The concept of her singing and purifying kyber crystal is really interesting, and I kind of wish that could be explored more. Like just the process of purifying kyber in air quotes is something I don't know too much about. And I think it would be fun to see more of that somehow, somewhere, some way.
Definitely. It's something that they allude to a little bit here and there, but it's not much because it seems like it's only been Ahsoka pretty much who's done it, and it's described really vaguely. The thing that I think I got really attached to with this was that it's done through song, which is obviously like a whole kit and caboodle for this episode. It's a very sonically focused episode. The score and the sound mixing are really, really high effort and really well integrated. But this is something I was thinking of while I was watching it, was in Lord of the Rings. I know that universe, that Middle Earth, was sung literally into existence by the higher beings in that universe. I don't need to get into it, but like that's where my brain was going once I knew what the theme of the episode was. I was like, oh shit, this is like, that's a really cool thing. That's why the characters in the Lord of the Rings books sing all the time. It's not just because Tolkien really liked having a silly song, which he did, but it's because like the universe was made by song and music. And I think that's a really cool thing. I don't think they were intentionally pulling on that, but that's where my brain went.
Hot.
Yes. So let me pull it up. So I wanted to do a tier list, even though that's like the most dude bro gamer shit I've ever said out loud. Bro. But I thought it would be interesting to have a kind of comparison for like visually speaking in comparison to last volume. So my tier list for this volume, S tier was Sith. A tier is Spy Dancer, Au's Song, I Am Your Mother. B was Screecher's Reach. C was Journey to the Dark Head, Into the Stars, and The Bandits of blah, 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 blah. And then D tier was...
Are you sure you're not reading my tier list?
Nope. Wait. Yes, I am. I'm retarded. I knew that sounded wrong. Shut up. I'm retarded. I knew that was wrong. There we go. Sorry. I'm so dumb. I knew it felt wrong. S tier is Au's Song, Sith. A tier is I Am Your Mother, Spy Dancer, Journey to the Dark Head. B tier is Screecher's Reach and Into the Stars. C tier is Bandits of blah, 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 and then The Pit. I couldn't quite put The Pit in D tier because at least the animation was high effort. I just really didn't like it.
I'm sorry, I'm trying to pull up mine.
I believe in you.
and I'm trying to listen to it at the same time.
Spencer already read mine, so I don't have to.
Bitch.
Ours
And
were pretty close, though.
I don't
I'm
know
only working on my phone, so
because I don't know the names of the things. That it doesn't really show it very
I can
well.
read it out if you really want me to, because I have access to yours right in front of my face.
All right, you can just read mine out.
Damn, look at me go. I'm such a cool guy. Messenger, pull up faster, you son of a bitch.
Because it doesn't show the names.
There we go.
Really well.
No, it's I was hesitating on how to make the thing look. So Collins, S tier is Screecher's Reach, which I did not expect coming in that high for you.
Yeah.
A tier was Sith and Into the Stars. B was Journey to the Dark Head, Spy Dancer, and Au's Song. C is I Am Your Mother, and D tier is The Pit and the Bandits of blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Seems fair. I think we're all in kind of the same neck of the woods. I think they're just all arranged differently.
I Am Your Mother at least a C because I didn't hate it. I just didn't like it. And I didn't also just want to go off of like what I didn't like. So if I went off of just what I didn't like, I'd put it like pretty much everything on D tier. But because it's not bad and also the quality of animation is still good, it goes into C. The Sky Dancer Journey and Sao Song or whatever, those are in B because they were good. Again, just didn't really reach me that well. A tier being Sith and In the Stars. In the Stars had probably my favorite animation. I loved how it looked. Everything was fantastic, and I just loved how it was kind of mystical and had like no Jedis and shit like that at all in it. And the new type of aliens that we saw in that, at least I'm pretty sure they're new. They looked so cool to me. The culture of that. Sith was great. I don't really like a lot of the animation because of the painting stuff.
I loved that.
Too fucking vague. I'm sorry. It's the space that they're in is too vague to like place them to figure out where they are. I'm like, I don't want that. I don't care. But
I'm gonna drag Collin to like a museum that only has expressionism and just see him implode.
No, that's different. That is so different. It's not like it's just telling a story with multiple phases. It's just those paintings are like a one phase story. It's what it's meant to be. And this is like you see so many different frames, you see so many different things, and it's just hard to tell where they are within a white space and stupid shit. But some of the concepts are kind of cool, sure. And Screecher's Reach is because I like seeing these kids try to like get out of their normal shitty lives and try to find something fun and new. And then we get to see like a Sith, and it's like this horror aspect. I like how the animation was, of course. I love the cartoon animation that it was. And then afterwards, she has to leave. She has to either choose her friends or go with the Sith to be trained, and that was kind of very heartfelt for me. So
yeah, I definitely appreciated that one being entirely 2D animated. The visuals for that were really cool. The dialogue was pretty rough for me. That's the same thing with Into the Stars. That's why it ended up so low on my list, is because I was ranting and raving about how cool the animation was. And then they opened their mouths and I could not fucking focus. It was horrible dialogue with really bad delivery. And I hate chalking that sort of stuff up to like this animation studio I don't think speaks English as their first language, but that's really what it felt like. It was just really janky.
I'm pretty sure that In the Stars, isn't this the same animation group that made Coraline?
I don't think so. Let me pull it up.
Pretty sure.
I don't think so. If it was, then I don't know.
It looks exactly the same. But yeah, I don't really care for dialogue in Star Wars because dialogue has never been Star Wars' strong suit. So
well, yeah, but it needs to at least be bearable.
I think it's just a preference for you, but that's fine.
Why does Wikipedia not have the animation studio on it? That is so dumb. Whatever. This general batch was definitely better than I was expecting. I don't know. I'm more likely to revisit these out of last batch. Last batch had like 2 or 3 that I would go back to. I would rewatch most of these except like my bottom 2. Star Wars should definitely keep doing these though. Like,
yeah, they should
keep enlisting other animation studios from all over the place to just do their own random shit. Like, I'm sure that's really good for those studios to get something like on their resume of like working with Lucasfilm, but like most of these have at least been interesting, even if they're not necessarily great. So like,
I think it's great for everyone because it's great for those animation studios. Of course, Disney gets money out of it somehow with like toys and whatever. And then you have the people who like they like Star Wars and they watch some Star Wars growing up and they want to get back into it or whatever. And they get these like short little things that they don't have to waste their attention span on. Because you know how people are nowadays with their attention spans. So it's just an easy way to like enjoy certain things.
Yeah, I would more so say it allows for more flexibility, because there's been a lot of people who have been really butthurt about Disney keeping such a tight canon on things while also not really taking advantage of their own canon stories like the books and shit. I'm one of those people. But like,
yes, we know.
Yeah, I hate most of Legends. I think most of Legends is fucking ass. But like allowing a space for non-canon stories, or like who cares if they're canon, they're just doing their own thing, like whatever, with the Star Wars mythology is a really good like precedent to set, to just have its own little thing over there on the side. So like if every couple of years they keep coming out with these, I'm gonna keep watching them.
Yeah.
Jacob. Hold on.
I was ready first, bitch.
Okay, someone go and do it in 4 minutes.
Okay, so I recently read and finished Vagabond, the VIZBIG #2 of Vagabond.
Holy shit, dude.
Yes. And what?
It's just like the first time you've read through something like that dense in a short amount of time.
I finished it like in 2 days at work. Wow. So this story continues. Miyamото Musashi. It continues Miyamoto Musashi's story of wanting to become the strongest and best samurai that he can be, strongest fighter, and he faces some foes, and he learns that through like a very wise, like old martial artist, that he is not strong. He has no strength, and so he has this internal turmoil going on. Like, what does he mean? I don't have the strength. That I've beaten people to death with just a wooden stick. I didn't need a sharp ass sword. And he journeys off to, I can't remember what it's called, but he journeys off to this temple where they teach this very ancient spear fighting style. And it's different from what he's fought before, because he usually fights people like katana to katana. He tries to find the master and finds out that the master is retired, and he has been, through this old man who is a like farmer. And this he also, I forgot to say that Musashi also found a disciple, this kid that wanted to learn from him, call him master, but he said, no, I'm not your master, I'm still learning. But eventually he's like, okay, fine, I'll take you with me. We'll learn together. And the kid witnesses the fight against him and the new grandmaster of this temple. And it is rough. It is so long and painful, where he's just getting his ass whooped, and he's fighting this kid, this guy who's basically a kid, the grandmaster of the temple. And this kid is a prodigy with the spear technique. He just knows what's going on. He's like never breaking a sweat, and every blow that Musashi takes, it doesn't feel like it's in malice. It's like it's a friendly jab, but it hurts as hell because he's fighting him. Musashi is very angry, and he's very malicious at times, but he's also he's fighting this guy who has like no malice at all. He's just fighting because he's like, yeah, let's fight. during this fight, he eventually blacks out and he finds himself in the old man's house and he's being taken care of. And the little kid says, I'm leaving now. And Musashi's like, why? He's like, I don't want to learn from a coward. And Musashi finds out that during the battle, he ran. And mind you, that this was a battle that was happening for like hours. And Musashi's at the point where basically all his clothes are ripped off. He's bleeding everywhere, and he just blacked out. He went to like fight or flight, like real fight or flight mode. And it felt like he was almost back in the mountains again. And he runs away from this fight, and he feels like a weakling. He feels terrible. Like, who the fuck am I? Then he finds out the old man was actually the old man that's like the farmer now. He's actually the grandmaster, and so he is going to teach him how to defeat the new grandmaster because he taught the new grandmaster. And that's where it leaves off and on to the next book. It's great. It just gets so into depth about internal problems and being weak, or what does it mean to be weak, or what does it mean to be strong. And I just absolutely love it.
Dick.
Mm-hmm. I'm buying one like tonight.
How many how many of those editions are there in
12.
total? Did you say 12?
Yes.
Jesus.
Yes. I'm going to own every single one of them. Like, I'm going to own all 14 of Berserk books. I got rid of a bunch of manga on my shelf because I don't reread them and I don't really care for them. And I gave them away. So now I have more room for more manga.
Okay, maybe I am going to check these out.
You are. Dude, Vagabond's so cool. It is probably one of the best mangas I've ever read.
Wicked hot. Beans.
Hot.
Jacob has a book about beans, and I want to hear about it.
Boy, another beans book?
He did.
2 of them, actually.
Oh, boy.
I read volumes 1 and 2 of Deep State. It is written by a guy, Justin Jordan, illustrated by Ariella Cristantina, and colored by Ben Wilsonham. So the first volume is called The Darker Side of the Moon. So what happens is there's these 2 agents of some secret part of the government without a name, really, and they're kind of like a mix of Fringe or X-Files or the Department of Truth, maybe, and their job is to cover up any conspiracies that could possibly happen. So there's a UFO crash that they have to investigate, and it turns out that the US wasn't the first on the moon. It was actually the Russians. But what happened was the Russian guy didn't get back from the moon. He got lost in space, and the Americans came back from the moon. So that's how we know, or that's why we think the Americans were first on the moon. But what happens is there's an alien that takes control of the Russian guy's body and then comes back to Earth and then starts infecting whatever town is nearby the crash. And the 2 agents have to cover it up. The pencils and inks, I guess, are a little bit rough, but I kind of like it. It's got a unique look to it. The story was fun. I think I gave it 3 out of 5 stars on Goodreads. The second book is Systems of Control. Same creative team. It really feels like this was a run that was planning to go for a long time, and they made 12 issues, and they were told that it wasn't selling, and they were canceled. The second book has a lot of time travel. Some guy is like shooting bullets with a gun from the future, so he can like fit from here, and then 3 days later, when someone's standing in front of where he shot, they get hit with 3 bullets. It's kind of a weird sci-fi idea, and that's how JFK was killed, and it all is tied together by the corporation or the department that these two agents are working for. There's an inside guy, and it turns out it was one of the main characters who was cloned, maybe. This one got really, really messy, and it didn't help that it really felt like the artwork deteriorated quickly. The pencils or inks in the second book are pretty awful. I wanted to blame the coloring, but comparing the two books side by side, I don't really think it was the colorist's failure. I really think it was the pencils. And like I said, the story got really messy and it was hard to follow, and I kind of didn't care. Despite like the cool sci-fi gun, it was just twists on twists until you didn't understand what was happening. I think I gave it a 1 out of 5, maybe 2. Maybe I was feeling generous. I got both of these books for $6 instead of the $15 cover price at Stairway to Heaven Comics. And I believe that was the day that the owner, Brad, was thanking me for buying books off of the pre-owned shelf and helping to get rid of those.
Well, that's rough. That's better than I thought it was going to turn out. When I saw you pick those up, I went, yee, that doesn't look great. And then
you thought it was going to be a huge pile of beans, but I mean, the back of the books heavily imply, more than heavily, they all but come right out and say this is for the X-Files fans. Like the first one has the typical sharpied out file look on it, and then there's only a couple words that you piece together. The truth is out there. Like this was targeting the sci-fi guys to read these books, and it was mediocre at best.
Oof. It is always fun getting pre-owned random books from random publishers. That's always a fun experience.
These were published by Boom with an exclamation point.
Boom has a weird catalog of stuff.
Fair.
Yes.
Just hold on half a second.
I only have like one pre-owned book, like technically only one, because I got it from Stairway, and that was Marvels. Marvels. I think it's literally just called Marvels. It's like the Alex, what's his face? The guy that Spencer keeps raving all the time.
Alex Ross. Yeah.
Yeah, it's Alex Ross's like Marvel Universe thing. Yeah. And that was pretty good. I'm surprised it was in like the pre-owned section.
That one ends up in there a lot. I think it's because they keep reprinting it every couple of years. If it's the older one, they print it all the time, and it just recently got remastered, so there's just a lot of copies of it around.
Oh boy.
So speaking of beans, I read What Unites Us, the graphic novel. This is really out of left field for this show, but I thought it would be interesting or relevant. It is an adaptation of sorts of a book. The book is a collection of essays from a journalist I really like called Dan Rather. So it's a slightly edited version of the book, which is already a modified version of a bunch of essays compiled into a book form. It's actually really easy to follow as a book. It's one of my favorite Beans books, basically.
Book of an essay of a book of an essay.
Yeah. What?
Is this the same Dan Rather from like CBS and 60 Minutes and whatever that was?
Yes.
Okay.
One of the most infamous, I would just say famous, like journalists who's currently still alive. I subscribe to this guy's fucking Substack. I read his stuff all the time. So my girlfriend actually got this book for me because I already own a copy of like the actual book, the collection of essays. I really like it. I've reread it a fair few times. And she saw that I was looking on a shelf at Barnes and Noble because it was really weird. There's a graphic novel version of a book, like a politics book. It's super fucking weird. So she bought it for me because it's a little expensive cover price. And I read through it. It took quite a while because it's a very odd format. So basically, it's like reading like 8 to 12 panel kind of like comic strips of sorts. It's primarily done in red, white, and blue coloring and gradients of those. The art was done by Tim Foley. I have never seen any of his other stuff. My assumption is that he's probably like a political cartoonist or something along those lines. Maybe he does like news strips or something. But it was a really interesting reading experience because the way that it's written is it's like a first person essay, and then it's broken up into text bubbles and thought bubbles overlaid with relevant imagery. So sometimes it's the author like literally walking on the moon telling you his thoughts because he's talking about the moon landing or whatever. And then sometimes it'll be, just other relevant imagery, libraries, famous people, politicians, whatever. So aside from like the actual subject matter of the book, which is pretty self-explanatory once you just look into it, it's like 10 to 12, 30-ish page essays. It's pretty normal stuff for journalists. I just really liked the art. Like on top of it being a very complicated process, I could imagine to turn a nonfiction book into a readable and digestible like narrative with visuals is really weird. And I just thought it was wicked fucking cool. Like you could read a couple of pages or a whole essay at a time. The visuals followed very strongly. It kept the same reading pace that I had when I was reading the book, which I appreciated. It doesn't break it up so much where it becomes like unbearable to read or it becomes overly long. And I thought that a lot of the illustrations were either really inventive with the way that they were composing different shots with like contrasting imagery or putting things like out of place. Like it's a journalist just walking on the moon. Like there's weird imagery like that I thought was portrayed really well. But it wasn't so distracting that it took away from the actual like writing. Super out of left field, but I was chewing on this for like a month or so. It just took a while to read through, so I thought I'd kind of shout it out here. Like I said, my girlfriend got it for me at Barnes & Noble. I think it's about a $30 or $35 cover price. It's a pretty chunky book. It's about 300 pages. It's full double-side illustrated in color. So it's a pretty dense book. It's a hardcover format with a like a velvet or felt spine. It's a really beautiful looking book as well. It looks very cool on my shelf. Sounds super weird, but I thought it was pretty cool.
My girlfriend bought it for me because she's my mom.
Fucking sue me. My girlfriend encourages my hobbies. I'm so sorry.
Oh,
Collin,
have
you read the I Live in a Haunted House so a Ghost Can Fuck Me book yet?
Nope, not yet.
Oh,
I'm saving that for a rainy night.
So what else have you read?
But I read the first issue of Rengor, The Last Vul'Garnian by Jake Allen SQ, who is a local artist and a good friend of one of our patrons, Jeff Lawrence.
Oh, cool.
He is usually at the Stairway to Heaven Free Comic Book Day and is usually taking up all of Jeff's time. So I'm going to show you guys what the artwork looks like the book, if you guys can really tell what's going on here. Yeah. It's basically, so for a while now, I'm going to start this off with, for a while now, I've wanted to read Conan the Barbarian, but anytime I see art or anytime I see anything about it, it looks like utter shit. It looks awful all the time. And I'm like, what the fuck? There's just, I want to find big, strong men who kill people. And this is big, strong men who kill people. And I have 3 of them. So the first issue opens up with this cult who have a very sexy booba lady chained up to 2 pillars. And they're about to sacrifice her to this god in the sky known as this crab god. And I can't remember his name. But the story goes that they were 2 stars and she fell from her husband onto Earth and keeps being reincarnated and her name is Pandora, and if they do not sacrifice her to the god so that she can be with him, then the world's going to be like blown up or some stupid shit. Well, Rengor, the last Vul'Garnian, found his way into the cultist group by putting on one of their cloaks and tries to sneak his way in. He does, but he stands out because he's the tallest motherfucker there. And he says to himself, man, I really should have had a better idea than doing this. And then they get really close to about killing her. And he's like, oh, I got to get up. I spring into action. So he jumps up and starts stepping on everyone's heads and runs over there, takes off his cloak, jumps up at the big guy, at the other like cultist guy with this like deer mask helmet with candles for eyes, and he breaks his arm off. He gets ready to kill him, but then he's like, no, brother, have some of this mist here. And he blows in his face, and the lady's like, no, don't do that, we'll both be dead. And he's like, whoa, my fingers are melting. But one of the guys sees a mark on Rengor's arm, which is the mark of the Vul'Garnians, and he's like, oh shit, guys, we have to kill him before anything happens. And the other guys are like, no, you just don't want this cool thing to happen because you didn't think about it. He's like, no, he's a Vul'Garnian. They use mushrooms for battle. When they get really high, they get really strong. And we use the same mushrooms for our intoxicating cult shit. So he's gonna fuck us up. And it talks about like an inner monologue in Rengor's head, where it's like, oh, I haven't felt like a warrior in so long, blah, blah, blah. I haven't felt like a true Vul'Garnian. And then he goes on a rampage and just starts killing everyone. And then one of the cultists tries to perform the sacrifice anyways, but his legs are broken. So he like clings on to the shirt of the booba lady. And as he's trying to kill her, her shirt rips off and her boobs come out. And Rengor immediately looks at her and she says, oh, so I have your attention now. And it's just like a close-up of his eyes, and you can see like her boob shape in each of his eyes. And it's just fucking awesome. And so he's like, so he picks her up and they run away after he killed all of them. And she's like, oh, do you think we're safe? Did you even finish killing all of them? And he immediately falls on his face and like is passed out in the middle of the woods. And then she starts hearing howling, and she takes up the knife that he stole, and she's about to get ready to protect herself from the whatever is out there, because Rengor just fainted. And that's where the first issue ends. And there's a bunch of really cool like sketches in the back of like what the cover's supposed to be like. It's a little fuzzy on this, but I'll like send pictures or something, and like background stuff he did, which kind of like inspires me to do more of my own comic. But I found out through Jeff that he does all this digitally. Like he draws it digitally. He doesn't do it traditionally. And it's really cool because whenever people only draw digitally, you can tell, for the most part, you can tell that they're doing it digitally, and it's just not as good. It feels like they lost their style and they're trying to like hide imperfections with using digital art. It seems like whatever style he created over time through influences and such, he just meshed it well, and he kept true to his art style. The whole thing is beautiful. It's a beautiful comic, and I can't wait to read more. As far as I know, there's 6 issues, and they're like these little tiny little babies, and they're 22 pages long. And he signed all of them. You can get them at Stairway to Heaven Comics for like, I think, $1 or $2.
Oh shit!
So, I recommend this to everyone. It is so cool.
Excellent.
Mm-hmm. Booba.
Jacob, what else you got over there?
You see, I was trying to go for a Department of Truth theme. So the last one was like weird sci-fi investigative stuff. And then the next one has artwork that looks very, very, very similar to it. It's the, I don't know, abstract pencils, and it's kind of scratchy, and the coloring is weird but great. But it has nothing to do with that. I read Blue in Green. It is written by Ram V. It is arted by Anand R.K., and it is colored by John Pearson. The story follows you could probably say a failed trumpet player, and he gets word that his mom died, so he has to go back home and face a bunch of ghosts there. And I don't mean real ghosts, I mean the ghosts in his head. This story is pretty dark. It's pretty off-putting and uncomfortable. There's some special things in the back that describe like a couple pages from the script, and it's way more descriptive than what I had picked up on about how the artwork should look. One of the goals was to make this like a horror book. I think it's even listed on the back as partly horror. It's just very dark because of where the character is at mentally. It looks gorgeous. I wish I could read more books that look like this. It looks so good.
I also wish I could read.
Huh?
I also wish I could read.
Me too. But the artwork is pretty.
Yeah, artwork pretty, especially Booba.
This is what this guy gets for being a band kid. Fucking depression and shit.
True. But he also gets laid, so who cares?
Does he, though?
He does?
In reality, he just fucked his own trumpet.
Gross.
No, it was his high school crush. But anyway, at the end of the story, I don't want to spoil it because it was very good. Cover price is $18. I don't remember where I got it. Probably Stairway again. I'd say it was worth the price. It's 6 issues.
That's cool. That's been somewhere on my to-do list for a hot minute. I just saw like Ram V getting a lot of acclaim for it, and then I was like, cool, I'll read that at some point.
Yeah.
He's a really good script writer. He's got a really cool... He's very good at making things gross and like unappealing, but also interesting.
I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. I probably would have done 4.5 if Goodreads had, did half stars. But the ending bummed me out. So there's your half star missing.
Damn. Jacob got
that. I would recommend it for the cover price. $18 is a good, reasonable price for the story.
Damn, Jacob got that depresso.
True. What else did you read? Please don't tell me, Beans.
Maybe.
I watched the first episode of a TV show today, and I don't think you were even supposed to notice, but the main character was eating beans on toast for breakfast. And I was like, what is that? I don't understand.
Jacob's watching British TV again. Someone get him away from the internet.
Yes.
Disturbing. So sort of beans, but not really. But kind of yes. So I read this year's DC Pride anthology, and this one was a massive letdown. Accurate. Last year was a bit of a dip in quality from the previous year when they started doing these, and this year was pretty rough. It's exactly what it sounds like. It's a bunch of different creative teams at DC doing many gay things for the most part. There is a story with there's a story to start off that Grant Morrison wrote, which was dealing with a bunch of multiversity characters, which I'm not really familiar with. That story was really cool, but it was very hard to follow just because I'm not very familiar with all the multiversity stuff that much. I think I read the first story and just never went back to it. So that was kind of lame. There's an authority story with the Midnighter and Apollo, which was really nice. The art on that was really, really cool. It was very flashy and jagged is the only way I can really describe it. And then there's a story with Tim Drake and Connor Hawke, so Ollie Queen's son, that I thought was pretty cool because they used to be friends ages ago, and then DC did retcon continuity crap again for the 50th time, and they haven't like talked to each other, in continuity for like ages. So they kind of re-met up and had a bunch of cool conversations. They like were cleaning up like a mob job, just laying out goons. So that was pretty cool. Damian popped in for a minute at the end of that story, and I thought that was nice. The art was also pretty pleasant to look at. And I think my favorite story was John Constantine has a bet with some other random magic schmuck about, my spell can fucking take anything or whatever. And then he convinces John Kent to like fight a magic golem demon thing. It's really fucking weird, but I thought it was pretty entertaining. Just watching John and John like bicker was really interesting. And the art was also pretty cool, very flashy. It's nice to look at. This was $10, and I think it's a reasonable price for the like amount of pages. It's a full chunky anthology, like trade issue thing, those weird halfway books. The quality control this year was really bad, though. Like some of these stories were clearly stupidly rushed and had no real effort put into them from where I'm sitting. And a lot of the art felt really similar. There was a lot of cool covers that they included in between stories and in the back of the book, just other like alternate covers of relevant characters. Just some cutesy stuff, which was nice. But I really hope that they reassess how they approach these, because if they're going to keep going downhill, they should stop, because this is getting worse, and that's not good. The first year was surprisingly strong, and it's only been getting worse. So please get your shit together. You know who doesn't have their shit together?
I'm surprised we made it this far and nobody said Spider-Man Across the Multiverse.
Oh, fuck. I forgot about that entirely.
Canon event.
Haha.
Me for gore. Oh, yeah. So we went to the theater this past week and watched Across the Spider-Verse, and we all had to change our pants.
It was fucking amazing. I jizzed. Spencer didn't throw up at the theater this time.
Yeah. No. I was sober.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, thanks to our patrons in Jetpack and
it's hard to talk about this movie without talking about specific plot points. Just because a lot of the individual decisions are some of the things that I think are really admirable. So it's hard to just not like get into it. But I think
want to just say spoilers and then get into it.
I'll start off with something though. I really enjoy how different this series takes on the idea of the Spider-Verse rather than the comics did. It's not like connected to this whatever the fuck vampire wants to eat all the Spider-Man and stupid shit like that. It has to do with like, it's just to do with the Spider-Men themselves, really. Yeah, there's like outside sources that create everything. Like we all know that Kingpin really started it all with trying to get his family back to him, like another multiverse's family to himself. But the turmoil and the problems are like within the cell of the spiders. It's not something outside of itself. And they are blaming all of this on Miles, but really it's to do with Fisk and a scientist that decided to bring spiders from other universes into Miles's universe. So Miles isn't at fault at all. Spider-Man 2099 is just racist.
A little bit. My general
thirsty.
That too. My general takeaway from this that kind of encapsulates all of my individual things that make me happy is the movie, despite having a ginormous scope and a bunch of cool Easter eggs and like really goofy, fun, silly things, it still takes the time to have like 7 minutes straight of Miles just talking to his mom about his feelings and shit. And I think that that's really important. And the movie, despite having some pacing problems here and there, it doesn't get it's a little slow in the second act. It doesn't get lost in the multiverse stuff. It doesn't get lost in the silly cameos and the holy shit, what did that reference Venom, the hit 2018 movie? It's like, it's focusing on what's important about being Spider-Man, what makes someone a Spider-Man, and like being a person and being a hero. And I think that's a lot more interesting. It uses everything else as a really cool setting and like background element, and as like a meta textual contemplation on the Spider-Man fandom mostly, but like the heart of the story is still about one guy and one person and what's going on in his head.
I noticed I'm sorry, I had to like walk out for a second because my roommate was starting to knock on my door. I noticed in a lot of movies where the bad guy, the protagonist and the antagonist both have like equal share in a movie. We don't actually see the antagonist a lot. We just see what we need to see. And most of it is the story is surrounded by Miles and how he's feeling and how everyone's just pretty much against him. And I just like how that is. But like with the parts that we do see of our antagonist are they're funny, and interesting.
Yes.
Yes.
I
feel
think
like I had something else to say about it, but I can't
Let
remember.
Jacob talk.
I think that the first movie is really good on its own, and then pretty much if you want to watch the second movie, you have to watch the third movie with it. Like, it's kind of segregated, I guess. It's not clunky, but one is standalone, and then it's like a two-part chunk.
It is.
I think it'll be interesting to have like a viewing party of all three and see how seamless that connection is.
For sure. I think that kind of reflects on how well this movie pulled little aspects from the first movie and made them much more important. Whereas usually in a movie, particularly cape shit, when something is set up for a later movie, it's really fucking obvious. And then a lot of the detail work in this movie was just like about random details from the last movie you would probably not have thought thought about a second time, and it turns out that they're kind of important.
Right.
And like a bunch of the things I would not have remembered if we hadn't watched it like 2 months ago. Like, I would have been like, did that actually happen, or are they making this up? It was like so minor. I like that. For
sure. I think I agree with you. It's definitely interesting to have a movie. I wouldn't say it like just completely leaves on a cliffhanger, but it definitely is intended to be a two-parter. It was announced as a two-parter, and then they just changed the name, which I think was a good decision, because if you label something a part one and a part two, you're going to get fucked in cinemas. No one's going to watch it. I don't think there's a better way to have done it from where I'm sitting. Like with what it seems like the story they want to tell, I can't think of a better way to kind of segment them off into separate movies. I felt like there was conclusion of certain characters' arcs in this movie, like Gwen came full circle, whereas Miles doesn't need to change. Miles was fine. He's a little irresponsible, but like he doesn't, in this movie anyways, have a character arc for a reason, because he's fine. Everyone else is wrong. So it feels like there is conclusion for some characters, and then the next movie will be it's not going to be like all set up, all payoff. There was enough payoff for me in this movie.
There's also like stuff to do. I'm sorry, Jacob. I think you had your finger up.
I was kind of bummed because what you could argue is a little clunky is the antagonist, and Collin was sort of just beating around this bush, but it's like the spot is there for a minute and he's fun, and then he just disappears, and then we get into a lot of multiverse stuff, and it's like the rest of the movie is focused on that. The spot basically disappears from the movie. And then the movie ends on a like gasp moment that I shrugged at because it was the most obvious thing.
Yeah.
I guess.
I it's definitely a little clunky, but I think the fact that the story about the Spot is supposed to be kind of like, really, this is your big bad, is kind of feeding into that. Like, he is explicitly set up as a villain of the week, and then because of that, he is pushed further into an antagonist role, and I'm pretty confident he's gonna have a lot of screen time in the next movie.
So I think it's a I mean, that's what I was kind of going to say, but I think it's great that they're doing this because if you just start out with, say, he's the bagel guy, he's just the bagel guy that got a bagel thrown at him, and now he's a bad guy. Like now he's our big bad. Like you can't just run off of that. I mean, we have cape shit that does that, but that's annoying. The whole point of this movie for me with the antagonist is that this is like his villain origin, like his like real villain origin. And um like Spencer said, we're going to see a lot. We're going to see like what he really is meant to be in the next movie. And I think the thing that we saw at the end of the very end of the movie that Jacob was like, really, and I was like, oh, that's cool. I don't think that's going to play a very big part. I think it might play somewhat of a part, but not like huge. Like I feel like a lot of people are thinking. I think Spot's going to be the big part.
I think I get what you're saying. I don't necessarily agree. I feel like that part of the plot will probably be resolved by the end of the first act.
Yes, that's what I mean.
Yeah. For sure. I think my
thrown away. It's going to have its own thing. It's just not going to be like the whole movie.
Right. No, for sure. It's just, it seems like it's a decent breakaway point to split the movies. My other biggest takeaway that I just felt like, because we had recently watched Into the Spider-Verse and we all have basically the same feelings on that movie, was I like this cast of supporting characters more than I like the last one.
Yes.
Not because the last one was bad by any means. I love Spider-Ham and Spider-Man Noir. Penny Parker is fine. That's about all I got on that one. But I like how much it's more expanded, but it's also less gimmicky. Like the other Spider people that are along with Miles and Gwen are actually more fleshed out as characters. They're not just there because it's a cool reference, which there's nothing wrong with just having a cool reference every once in a while, but they're more expanded on and they're more fleshed out as people, and their motivations make more sense. Like particularly Spider-Punk, obviously my favorite character. We all knew this was going to happen.
Yes.
Like they feel more like people in this movie for me than the other characters did last time. And I think going into the third movie, I'm very interested to see how they merge those two groups together in this new setting.
Yes.
Well, speaking of sidekicks, we should thank our sidekicks. Jeff Lawrence and Caitlin went over to patreon.com/dimecomicbros network and signed up under one of the 4 tiers available there. They get all kinds of cool bonuses and neat little things from us because they support us. So please, if you liked anything that you heard today, consider going over to Patreon and showing us some love and help keep the show going.
Also,
go ahead.
Also, a big shout out to our partners over at Jetpack Comics and Games in downtown Rochester, New Hampshire. That is our local comic book shop. You should always shop local when you can, particularly in an industry like this. If they don't have what you're looking for, they are always happy to be able to custom order stuff. They do pull lists. They have single issues, collected editions, everything under the sun for comic books. Let them know that we sent you. Be greatly appreciated. We have a bunch of different social media stuff. It's about what you'd expect. You can get little look aheads into what we're doing, behind the scenes stuff, additional side commentary on random bullshit we're working on. We also have a Substack, which if you don't know what that is, it's basically an old boomer email chain that's new and cool for Zoomers. It's linked in the YouTube description. and on all of our social medias. So go check that out. We send out recaps every week of our most recent episode, just a little follow along with some visual aids for all of us special ed kids in the class. Twitter, Instagram, and so on, blah, 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 blah. Next week will be End of Evangelion and some random bullshit. And that's the last episode of the season. So yet next week is going to be some chaos.
Yes.
Make sure you tune in to that. Also, I need to shout it out real quick. We recently started a D&D campaign with this group of guys. Collin is DMing. Jacob and I have never played D&D before. We are uploading it in segments once a month. Go check it out. The first bit will be up by the time this episode is live. Thanks. Yes.